I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Good morning, Vietnam!
It's the Al Travis Show, and up next, he's on the program with us weekly. Love having him on. He's John Hinderaker, president of the American Experiment. John, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Al.
You guys got a busy week coming up. We'll talk about that in a second. Wanted to bring up, we talked about Mary Moriarty, the Hennepin County attorney up there, kind of a couple of weeks back, maybe 3, when somebody that worked in the state government, older gentleman, like 35, something like that, was keying Teslas. Like 6 times he was caught, and she decided to put him in a diversion program, let him find out what he did was wrong, maybe sit in a corner for a while, really soak it all in. She's back in the news again, and it's on the American Express website.
Pause for a second, Al, because that guy, over a 2-week period, vandalized 6 Teslas and did $21,000 worth of damage. And Mary Moriarty said, that's okay, we're not going to prosecute him. At exactly the same time, a different person, a woman, vandalized 1 car that was not a Tesla, did $6,000 worth of damage, less than a third as much, and she got prosecuted for a felony. So what we're seeing in Hennepin County is selective prosecution based on the county attorney's political preferences.
Yeah. Oh, and that's what comes up with this next one. The other thing is that we've never heard from this guy again. I presume because he worked for the state, since he didn't get a felony charge, he's still working for us. So he's still with us as far as anybody knows. I haven't read his story on it. But our story today, the latest news about this Mary Moriarty, is that the U.S. Department of Justice is coming after her and doing an investigation because of a policy she put out, basically saying that you need to take into consideration the person's ethnicity, where he grew up or how he grew up, when doing plea deals or not. And the U.S. Department said, sure sounds racist to me.
Well, Al, it's hard to think of anything that would more obviously or more nakedly violate the equal protection clause of the 14th Amendment than sentencing people for crimes differently on account of their race. And yet that is exactly what Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty told her prosecutors to do. It is really shocking, Al. I think if you go back like to the 1930s, say, I think you would have found some states in the Deep South where they did this, where they engaged in race discrimination in sentencing, negotiating plea bargains. But that got stamped out.
It's supposed to.
That hasn't happened for a really long time. I can't think of another instance where a prosecutor has actually made it a policy to discriminate in criminal sentencing based on race. It is blatantly illegal.
And is this, she's an attorney, for heaven's sakes. Is there a written thing she wrote telling people, and what does that mean? Consider race. Consider if you're a white guy, you get better treatment? Did it say what you're to consider when you, is there
what it says, Al, it says to take race into account in negotiating plea bargains. And what she has said is that she's trying to make up for systemic racism in Minnesota's criminal justice system. So she thinks that the system discriminates against blacks. That's what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And therefore, she's going to discriminate against whites to kind of put her thumb on the scale to make up for what she perceives as discriminatory treatment elsewhere in the criminal justice system. Now, that raises, of course, the question, well, wait a minute, time out. Who says, well, number one, that's a crazy thing to do anyway. This is
that's
racist
number one
over here, so I'm going to be racist in the opposite way over here. That doesn't make any sense. But it raises the question, is it true that Minnesota's criminal justice system somehow discriminates against black defendants? And as you know, Dave Zimmer, our policy fellow specializing in criminal justice and law enforcement, has analyzed that very question in 2 reports, one last year, one this year, relying on official data from the state government. He didn't make this up. This is official from the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. And his conclusion, the conclusion of his reports is no, there is no discrimination against blacks anywhere in our criminal justice system, not at the stage of arrest, not at the stage of prosecution, not at the stage of conviction or sentencing or incarceration. As a matter of fact, he doesn't push this point too hard, but as a matter of fact, blacks actually do a little bit better than whites statistically as you follow them through the criminal justice system. And the fact that there are a disproportionate number of blacks who are arrested and prosecuted for crimes is 100% the result of the fact that, as the BCA data show, there is a disproportionate number of blacks who commit crimes in the first place. The police do not walk down the street with a lasso, randomly picking people up and charging them with crimes. The people who are getting charged and convicted by juries or pleading guilty more often are in that situation because they committed a crime. And so, this is an openly, nakedly racist and unconstitutional policy. And every Minnesotan, honestly, should be embarrassed that we've got the most important law enforcement officer in our state, the Hennepin County attorney, who is operating in violation of the federal Constitution and therefore has now triggered an investigation by the Department of Justice.
Can you just not be mad at her enough for the hypocrisy? Literally, this is coming out. She makes this statement. She puts it out there, but come on, we got to consider race. And then this white guy who works for the state of Minnesota, keys 6 Teslas. She could show, see, this is what I'm talking about. We got to prosecute these people for these crimes. And yet the woman who wrote that art said, nah, we'll let him go. You know what I'm saying? The hypocrisy should get her fired.
Sure. When she made a point out of not prosecuting the guy who vandalized 6 Teslas, she was making a political point. She was telling the world, hey, it is open season on Teslas in Hennepin County. If you're a left winger and you feel like vandalizing a Tesla, or I don't know, maybe firebombing a Tesla dealership. That's been happening around the country. Hennepin County is the place to go. That's the message that she was sending with that public refusal to prosecute that guy.
And don't do it, people, but that he's making a great point. We got to go to break. When we come back, I'm looking at high school graduations kind of like an Oprah Winfrey show. You get a certificate. You get a certificate. Everybody's graduating. We'll talk about it coming up here next on the Al Travis Show.
All the special interests are represented in St. Paul. But who speaks for you? Center of the American Experiment does. Our policy fellows dig into the tough issues that matter to you and offer common sense solutions on education, taxes, crime, and energy. American Experiment is the trusted, nonpartisan voice of Minnesotans like you. We are working every day to make Minnesota a better, safer, more prosperous place. We are American Experiment. Go to americanexperiment.org to learn more.
Achieving your financial goals requires individual planning and a comprehensive approach. At Midwest Money Management, our mission is to provide you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to feel comfortable financially today and secure about tomorrow. Learn more at MidwestMoneyManagement.com. That's MidwestMoneyManagement.com.
Securities offered through JW Cole Financial Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through JW Cole Advisors Inc., Midwest Money Management, and JW Cole Financial Inc. and JW Cole Advisors Inc. are unaffiliated entities.
Easily offended? The Al Travis Show is not for you. The Al Travis Show. All sides are welcome.
We've got him, John Hinderaker, president of the American Experiment. John, I think that Katrin Wigfall, is that her last name?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
She lays things out so easy. We had the story that 84.2% of Minnesota kids in 2024 graduated from high school, and the governor's touting how huge that was. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Wasn't it like last year we were talking about the 11th graders where half weren't even proficient in reading and math? And I brought it up to one of my state senators on this program. He said, well, you know, if you're out there in the world, half the people you meet can't read at a sixth grade level. So it seemed fine to him that was it. When I go to your website and look at the maps, the graphs that Katrin put down, from 2013 to 2024, every metric, 10th grade reading, 11th grade math, and then graduation, everything has gone down on a yearly. Nothing has ever gone up except the graduation rate. Yeah, why not just give it 100? How does this work? Everyone graduates, but no one can read and write?
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad situation, Al. It really is. You can graduate anybody. You know, if you make your standards low enough, all they got to do is be able to show up on the day of the graduation, walk across the stage, and you'll hand them a diploma. You know, that is not a meaningful test. And that's what's happened here in Minnesota. I mean, our standards have fallen lower and lower to the point where you know, everybody that doesn't go out of his way to drop out is handed a diploma. What's really important is how much are these kids learning? And what we're seeing is that the majority of kids in the state of Minnesota in public schools can neither read nor do math at grade level. And even in the districts where parents think, a lot of people think, yeah, the public schools are pretty lousy, but the schools in my district, the schools my kids go to are really good. That is a very common attitude, right? Yeah. But even in the districts that people think of as being the top school districts in the state, typically you'll find that 30% or 40% of the kids still can't read or can't do math at grade level. So we've got a serious problem in the public schools. The public schools are failing many of our students. And we're not just talking about, you know, minority kids in the inner city or something like that. We're talking about a broad-based failure that extends across the entire state of Minnesota.
Well, and looking at the graphs here, and I would love her to compare one other graph, how much the actual money we spent gone up. 2013, a little over 60% of the 10th graders could read proficiently, and a little over 50% could do math. You work yourself all the way down to 2024, 50%, a little over 50% can do the 10th grade reading, and looks like 35% of the kids can do the math in 11th grade, and yet they're graduating. At the same time, I'll bet you look at the money that has been spent, that's skyrocketing up. We're not getting our money's worth if we're just saying, aren't you proud of us? We graduated them. You know what it is? Because every kid that comes and sits in a seat for a day, so much money gets sent to their school. They just seem to want them to be sitting there. If you sit there, we make our money, we'll give you a certificate.
So Katrin Wigfall has made another chart that it just really tells the whole story. In one line, it shows inflation adjusted per student spending over the last, 25 or 30 years. It goes up, dramatic increase in per pupil inflation adjusted spending. And then the other two lines are achievement in reading and math, the blend of, I think it's whatever those grades are when they test reading and math, 4th grade, 8th grade, 11th grade. And those lines are going down. And so we keep spending more and more money and we keep getting worse and worse results. And I think anybody who really cares about education and looks at that chart or other data, that Katrin has put out there, I think you have to ask yourself, we got to try something new. We have tried spending more money every single year. And every year when somebody says, gosh, our schools aren't performing very well, the answer in the legislature is, we better spend more money. Well, we have tried that. We have carried out a laboratory experiment in spending more money. And what we have found is that more money is not giving us better results. So we got to go back to square one and look at what some other states are doing, because there are other states that are doing a lot better, and it's not because they're spending more money.
Fair enough. I don't want to let you go without talking about this guy you guys got coming up for your annual dinner gala. Since I told my wife about it, it is so funny. We follow along in our X's or Facebook or whatever the reels, those things call it. This guy is a downright superstar in the X world, or in the the little real world. I've never seen him actually on CNN. I don't watch it much, but I've seen him every bit he's ever said on CNN because somebody chops it up and puts it online. And you've got him coming for your annual dinner. This thing better sell out. This is one fun guest.
It's really going to be a fun evening, Al. Scott Jennings of CNN is going to be our principal speaker, our keynote speaker at the annual dinner. And the annual dinner is Saturday, May 17th, a week from Saturday. It's at the Hilton Hotel in Minneapolis. You can get tickets. There are tickets available. Go to our website, americanexperiment.org. Click at the top where it says events, and that'll take you right to where you can buy a ticket and register for the event. So Scott Jennings, and I think even since we booked him a couple of months ago, Al, he just keeps getting more and more popular and having more and more impact. And it's a wonderful, he is like sort of the king of the new media. So he'll do a CNN show, and he's the star. He's the only conservative they've got on CNN. And so he'll be on a panel with 2 or 3 liberals, a liberal guest, and time after time, he'll bring the truth bomb, to that group. And so I don't know how many people see him live on CNN, but maybe that's 60,000 or some number like that. Well, the next day, 1 million people or 2 million people will see the clips of Scott interacting with these liberal guests and panelists on CNN. It's going to be a very fun evening, a very informative evening. And so anybody that's interested, go to americanexperiment.org, click on the tab at top that says events, and all the information is right there.
You deal with these people a lot. I mean, every year your gala has some fantastic guests. I'm loving this guy. But he must have some great contract writer, whoever wrote his contract. CNN cannot be thrilled that Scott Jennings, the star of their CNN television show, is doing the conservative American Center for the American Experiment gala. You know what I'm saying? They're like, buddy, what are you doing? It's so killer to me.
I don't know, Al. I'm not sure that's true. They have just signed Scott to a new contract. A big new contract. He's the biggest attraction they've got.
But they gotta hate it that he's talking to your group there. I mean, he's like, it's so great you got him, I guess is my point. You tell me why CNN would think, hey, American Experiment, great. I'm glad you're spreading the word. They gotta hate it. I love this. Is such a huge coup for you. I'm just meaning that. I it'd be like, I don't know, Bill O'Reilly doing the CNN or something. It just seems so off. But it's fantastic, and he's hilarious. I love him. I think he's the truth bomb is what you're saying.
He's really, really good, and he's also entertaining. He's funny, and he knows how to, he'll in 2 minutes, he will really make his case, and often makes the other guys look kind of foolish.
I hope, I don't know how this works if there's moderator there. I would love to have someone ask him how his fellow workers think about him. You go to CNN, like you say, he's the only conservative. Do they cut him some slack knowing it's 5-on-1 sometimes, or do they just hate they get...
Well, I asked him that question. He was a guest on our podcast a few weeks ago, to promote the annual dinner, and I asked him that question. And Scott is such a nice guy. He says he is great friends with his colleagues at CNN, gets along with them very well off camera, and I can see why, because he is just really a genuinely nice guy.
All right, fantastic. We're out of time. Go to the American Experiment, americanexperiment.org. Go to the events page. It's the next one coming up. It's on Saturday, May 17th. Scott Jennings, you'll know who he is when you see him. 2025 annual dinner gala for the American Experiment. Appreciate you coming on, John. Really do.
Always great to be with you, Al.
All right.
All the special interests are represented in St. Paul, but who speaks for you?